You're listening to Cinema Rex. It's an Iranian film podcast. Episode 43, Asghar Farhadi's The Salesman. Furushande. Farhan June, good morning.
Good morning, Kaveh.
Look at you, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
To everybody, Durud Bar Shoma Dustana Aziz. This is the Cinema Rex podcast where we talk all things Iranian film, television, acting, writing, old men, Arthur Miller adaptations,
ambiguity,
Salesman, Neighborhood Collected. What's it called? Like a neighborhood theater. What are those productions called when they're like
community theater?
Local community theater,
yeah.
Which is what happens in this. Anything else, Ron? What am I forgetting? What do we discuss every episode?
Movies. Talk about movies. We talk about...
Yeah. We do talk about movies.
We talk about
Mohebi.
Deeper analysis. I'm Farhan Moradi.
And today we are talking about Arthur Miller's seminal play, Death of a Salesman. Eloquently and beautifully adapted in Farsi Persian language. This is a scene-for-scene remake of that play. Done. No, I'm kidding. Of course, it's The Salesman, which is called
Furushande
by Asghar Farhadi. Really popular film in the Iranian pantheon. It's, he went 2 for 2 in this short span between the separation and this. He had won back-to-back Oscars.
Every time I hear Asghar Farhadi's full name, I kind of chuckle to myself because people will often use Asghar as a fake name to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
Like Jabroni.
Yeah.
It's like if
Jabroni
someone,
Farhadi.
yeah. It's like if someone's filmmaker name was I don't know, Jabroni Johnson or something.
Yeah.
Hey, Asghar!
Yeah, Jabroni Farhadi is a great filmmaker, 2 for 2. He was really in this weird moment of just killing it. And then after that, it all kind of came tumbling down with a few accusations of plagiarism and, just generally not a great guy vibes is what the sort of
allegedly,
thing is. And honestly,
we don't have him here to corroborate.
Allegedly, but these there's been claims just by a few people. But also, the weird thing too is, have you seen his films after this?
No.
After Salesman?
No. Because I started to hear these rumors and then I was like, maybe I'll...
It's not... They're not terrible films. Well, so I remember seeing his film Everyone Knows. It's his first non-Persian Iranian language film, Farsi language film. I just think it's not that strong. It's the one starring Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem. It kind of feels like a Farhadi film, but it almost feels like an imitation of a Farhadi film. And I think this just goes beyond the fact that it's not just because it's not Iranian. And then a hero, a lot of, it's got a lot of the same trimmings of Farhadi film, but it's marred with a little bit of controversy and I just think it lacked a bit of that sharp societal critique that he's so good at.
He's got to have more workshops.
Yeah, he's running out of
gems.
Anyways, what
gems to mine.
Yeah.
He is doing a workshop in Italy this year, so
which we are attending.
Maybe
next week.
In a couple of years, the movie that comes after this will be a banger with layers and layers of complexity.
It'll be about a poor Italian woman who enters a workshop for film and comes up with an idea. But yeah, let's just dive right into plot summary for Furushande, The Salesman. Emad and Ranaa are a married couple who both work in theater, currently starring in a production of Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. One night, while home alone, Ranaa is assaulted by an intruder to whom she had opened the door for, thinking it was Emad returning home.
Allegedly.
Emad also learns from neighbors that the previous tenant had been a prostitute or sex worker.
Allegedly.
Who had had conflicts with her clients. Emad begins an obsessive and exhaustive hunt to track down the identity of the attacker while Ranaa deals with the post-traumatic scars of that fateful evening.
That part's not alleged. That part actually happened. We saw it on screen.
It has a 96 Rotten Tomato score, 96%, and an 84% audience score. So I ask you, Farhan June, what did you think of The Salesman?
I really liked it. This is my third time watching the film. I like it more than Separation. I especially appreciate all the little details in the film, things that you would see in real life. Usually you don't see them in a movie. One example that comes to mind is like when they're leaving, when his friends are leaving after they came over, he stops one of them and he's like, "Oh, you forgot your bag." And then he goes and he grabs the bag and he hands it to him. And it's like, in a scripted film, things are so tight that you wouldn't necessarily have, whether they're improv or scripted or whatever, but those little moments where things kind of go off script are appreciated, and it makes it feel so much more real.
Yeah, Farhady's, to his credit, like one of his true strengths as a writer is how he really captures that neorealism in dialogue and acting. Is sort of everything's grounded in reality, from the way characters talk, from the way the behavior. It's almost like at times like you've almost got a documentary lens on a family. One moment, as you're mentioning that, it made me think of, it stands out, is when she's like, when they get into the new apartment they're moving into, and Ranaa says, "This door is locked." And Bobak, the guy who's showing them, he's like, "Huh? What'd you say?" He's like, "This door, it's locked." And he's like, yeah, that was the thing. And like, just like he didn't catch that is a moment that wouldn't be scripted. It doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm, There's no metaphor, but it's just such natural dialogue of like, he didn't catch what she said, so he repeats it. And it doesn't, like, they don't belabor that moment of like, you've had that complaint before. Kiarostami has a lot of like repeating the question again and again. What'd you say? Say it again. It's just like, this was just like a quick blip of like, the door. There's
been times where I've tried to like put that in my scripts before and sent them to you and Rob, and you've been like, "What the hell is this? This is too much."
Yeah. Hello? What? Yes? Who's there? Phone's not working. Yeah. So like that. Yeah. Like Farhady's like really great at capturing those subtle nuances, and I think a lot of it does come from improvisation or just knowing how to work with the actors to let them freely take these pauses and moments,
or taking secret recordings from workshops home. Transcribing those.
See, now you said alleged, and now you're really hammering it home. So we're gonna get sued.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Can I do a Kava's opening shot corner?
Yeah.
The first thing we see is the stage play, the production design of the play for Salesman. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing an unmade bed. And I instantly go, an unmade bed. We're setting the stage, both the literal stage for the screen
and the stage
of the movie you're watching, but for the setting the stage for the stage and for the movie, everything's there. And at that moment, so you're seeing a bed unmade, but it's also potentially the groundwork where a lot of the drama takes place, the family bedroom, husband and wife, and like the area that a sex worker might inhabit is a bed, like
the area that a sex worker might inhabit.
They're not known for being in phone booths.
That's Superman,
the bedroom, right? So like where the drama takes place is like a bed. And then from there we go right to the sounds of like an earthquake or like building shaking and someone screaming. And to me, I was like, right off the top, earthquake, symbolic meaning there. Yeah. Their home life is being shaken up. They're being like, there's not a quiet place.
The world has been rocked.
The world, exactly. There you go. The world has been rocked, and this family, like there's discord amongst the family life. Or between this couple,
unlike the Discord that we use to have this conversation. That's great. Big fan.
There's some. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I also like that the movie has a lot of show don't tell, where there's moments throughout the film where characters are doing things, they're finding things, they're investigating things, and they're not telling like another character beside them what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like someone's doing something and someone's like, "What is that?" "Oh, it's the guy's phone." "Why do you need that?" "Oh, I'm going to use it to track down blah, blah, blah." Like, you don't have any of that. You just have him, like, find the phone. He finds the car keys. Then he goes outside. He finds the truck. Then he moves the truck. Like, you're piecing together the intentions of these characters just by watching it through context clues. Another example is the last time we see Ranaa, she's scared and she's distraught and she's like, "Don't leave me." And he's like, "No, I'll be right back." And then when he comes back, the balcony door is open and he can't find Ranaa, and then he runs out the balcony. And it's never addressed why he ran out there, but it's like pretty clear what was going through his mind and what the concern was.
That she might have jumped?
Yeah, and flown away like Superman.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just off that moment, do you remember how she kind of reacts when he jumps out into runs out into the balcony? She's startled. That was a little moment that I'm just like, oh, this is such good acting. Like, it's actually pretty hard to have that little bump and make it realistic. Like, you're startled. And she does that so much because after she's been attacked, she's sort of dealing with the stress, the trauma that's come from what's happened. And she really portrays, I think she's such a good actor, and she does such a wonderful job with the two versions of Ranaa. There's the Ranaa before the attack and the Ranaa after. And it's so naturalistic. It's so realistic. You have so much sympathy and empathy for what she's going through. Yeah. And she's just it's through these little moments, especially it's the quieter moments that she's just absolutely killing the performance.
I also really like the fact that there's the bandages over her head. Like, Farhadi finds really good ways
he does.
Of explaining why her hair is covered. Like in the first few scenes when they're in there, there's like strangers in the house with them, like showing them around all this stuff, right? And then when she gets home and she's alone, she just hasn't had a chance to take off her makeup or anything yet, right? Like from the play. So that explains why she's got like the wig and the bald cap, like under the wig and whatever. And then throughout the rest of the film, she's wearing bandages over her head, right?
Yeah. I had heard in an interview Farhadi said like he really hates how women, if they're alone in the house in Iranian films, they still have to wear the rusari because it's film. And he doesn't like how unnaturalistic that is. So he always tries in his film, if they're going to be home alone, especially in this film he tried, was that they're wearing the rusari because other people are in the house. There's other people coming in and out of the apartment and all this stuff. So he actually does that expertly throughout the entire film, except for one scene in the film, which was actually under IMDb's goofs, like one of those mistakes. She's doing it at one scene when she's cleaning the house by herself, vacuuming and stuff. It's the only scene in the film where she's wearing a rusari alone in the house. Otherwise, she's either outdoors or there's people in the house and stuff, so it actually makes sense.
I couldn't remember if that was a Farhadi quote or if it was Kiarostami or Panahi or somebody. It's Farhadi?
Kiarostami said because it bothered him, he just never put women in his films. He never put women in his films indoors. It's true too. It's one of the reasons he didn't like it. He's like, it breaks the illusion for me. So if he had women in his films, they're outdoors 99% of the time. It's interesting too, because it's my fourth time watching the film. And I remember thinking to myself that the procedural elements of him trying to chase down the guy that might have attacked his wife, I thought there was more steps to it. But upon this film, I had realized that the last scenes of the film are 40. The last dramatic set piece is 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so by the time you're at this final showdown between him and the perpetrator, you're at an hour 20 mark of a 2-hour movie. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there aren't as many steps I thought there would be to him finding the guys. Like, he sort of just ends up asking his friend for do you have the the license number, the registration number for the car? And then he finds essentially the son-in-law of the perpetrator. It's just interesting because in my mind there was way more steps to it. It's this I gotta go here, then I gotta go there, then I gotta talk to this guy, then this guy's gonna lead me to this guy. But I was like, no, once he actually just kind of puts it to himself to find the guy, he pretty quickly finds him.
Yeah, I remember pausing the movie because I was like, oh, has it already been 2 hours? When he when he lures the guy into the building. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, it hasn't. I forgot how much time is spent there. Yeah. You know what, that scene, the first scene that he has with the old man in the apartment? Yeah. What that reminds me of?
What's that?
Do you remember the show Columbo?
No. Yes, I know of it, but I didn't watch it because I'm not 75.
In Columbo, he'll be interrogating someone and you're like, oh, okay, this person's not the culprit or whatever. And then just before they leave, he's like, just 1 second there before you leave. You said, when you did this, that you really meant this. Is that right? And then the guy's like, I guess I did say that. Oh, I don't know why I would say that. Oh, why do you think you would say it like that when you came in the other way? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think it through. It's like, oh, okay. Must be nothing then. And then as he goes to leave, then again, he goes, just one more question for you. And then he asks more questions and it slowly starts to unravel. I was like, oh, he's literally giving the guy the Columbo treatment. He picked up on these little weird discrepancies in a story, locked the door, and then was like, I just have one more question. But the Iranian version is obviously Just one question.
But here's the thing. I'm really having like shocking like moments right now because I, for a second, really thought Shahab Hosseini was in this chat with us because that impression of him you just did is stellar. Like I really was like, oh my God, is Shahab Hosseini in this room with us? Like performing a scene?
Excellent Columbo impression, I will have you know.
Yeah. Can we give a shout out for how good the leads are? Like Shahab Hosseini and Tana Ali Dosti playing the two leads are so good that it's almost unfair. Like that Farhadi gets to work with these two actors. Like they're such talented actors and absolutely kill it in this film. I also think, again, to Farhadi's credits, it's another film just like Salesman where you have a group of characters that are just stuck in this situation. They're just trapped by the societal constraints placed on them. You know, she's been attacked, but she doesn't want to go to the cops because she just wants it to be behind them. At the same time, at the same token, the neighbors are like, yeah, you don't want to go to the cops because people are going to start asking questions. They're going to wonder why your wife left the door open for him. All this. And it's like they can't move past it. Neither of them are at fault for what happened, but yet now they are like victims of this thing that they're stuck in. She can't move forward and go back to her acting career because she's like traumatized, and he can't find who the perpetrator is because people are just telling them to let it go, and she doesn't really want to pursue it this much, and his masculinity is being threatened and she's feeling violated. And again, it's just like none of them did anything wrong, and here they are in this terribly shitty situation.
They should have sang him the song from Frozen. Probably would have worked.
I hear that song way too often in my household. So like you just saying that right now just gave me a terrible reaction.
Yeah, am I gonna come to your house and find you alone on the balcony?
Yeah. Let's see, like hearing Let It Go ringing in my head. I'll be humming it quietly.
That scene where they're eating the dinner and they're like, let's just have one night where we don't have to think of this garbage man.
Yeah.
Not garbage man. This bad person. He's
Terrible
not taking
person,
out.
yeah.
He's not taking out their trash.
No.
But they're having dinner, and it's with the kid that's like over visiting them.
The cutest kid on the face of
literally the cutest child in the world.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, by the way, where did you get the groceries to make this stuff? Like, I didn't have a chance to go to the grocery store. She's like, oh, I used some of the money you had left in the dresser or on the dresser. And he's like, he like pauses. And she's like, what is it?
Yeah.
And right away, the audience, again, show don't tell type thing. Like, we're given the opportunity for us to piece it together first. Then he tells her, he's like, this food is no good. Yeah.
Which is a shame. The food looked good. Throws it all out.
Yeah. And he said he said it was really good. The kid was enjoying it. And I love when he's like, when he pauses, even the kid stops eating. He like looks at him like, wait. Yeah. What happened? What's going on? Is this food gonna get me
those
sick?
Are the moments. I mean, that whole scene, like I really love all of that scene because she first brings the little kid. It's their friend's son who they're doing the play with a friend, and it's her son. And they walk in and they see the possessions of the previous owner that she had just sort of left. She'd been sort of kicked out kind of in a hurry. And there's a little child's bike because we know the previous owner who lived there was a mother. And he asks the woman who the owner of the bike is. And he's like, oh, it belonged to the previous owner. He's like, where did they go? And she's trying to avoid the question because bringing up the question of who previously lived there is painful to her. But here's this small child asking these like precocious questions. And she's like, why don't you go wash your hands and get ready for dinner? And like, you're feeling the emotion behind these questions without it being laid out in front of us. And then finally, when he comes home and they're playing, it's like, there's almost a sense of normalcy for one night after these terrible nights in a row of them fighting. It's like they're having dinner and it's happiness. And for a brief moment, they're having like this wonderful evening together. Almost like a family dynamic too. It's almost like father, mother, son.
Yeah.
Even though it's not their son, but it's got that image. And then it's ruined with this like idea of like bringing up the question of the money that was brought up and like it's that jerk's money. So like really good writing, really impressive, just build up to the emotion behind a lot of the stuff that's happening to them.
The impact, I think, just going back to the food thing of like eating the food of someone who assaulted you or like knowing that like that's where that food came from and it's like now inside your body.
Yeah.
Like a whole other level of violation.
Yeah.
Good writing.
Yeah. You know, this is a film that's been around for a while. We're not going to, this will be a spoiler full podcast, but I think at the end of the day, one of the things that's really interesting is he discovers that the perpetrator is not the son-in-law that he thought it was, but it's just this old man, right? And it's interesting because at first he invites him over, thinking the son-in-law will show up. The old man arrives, and it's like he doesn't even realize it's him. So he's like, "Please get in touch with your son-in-law." Until he asks him, all these questions, like he Columbos him, as you said,
classic,
and eventually asks him to take off his shoes and socks, which the guy tries to fight back against, but he's trapped in there with him. And you reveal that his foot is injured from stepping on broken glass, revealing that he was there that night. And what I love about this, again, the Farhadi masterstroke is it's not the villains you think it is. The antagonist of The Salesman is essentially a frail old man,
heart
not a
condition.
caricature of evil. Well, a frail old man with a heart condition, not this like mustache twirling villain. And in a sense, it's sort of turning like, yeah, the man's a bad person. He's done a terrible thing. But you're almost left with like in this final struggle, this 40-minute set piece, the final 40 minutes, Emad is like, he's the villain. Like he's not letting it go. His refusal to like accept the circumstances for what they are and just move on with his life is driving this drama and the plot worser and worser. Worse and worse.
Worserest and worserest.
Worserest and
Worstest
worstest.
and worstest.
Worcester sauce.
Yeah.
But like, so like, it's like everybody in this film is flawed and sympathetic.
Yeah.
Like they're all just like stuck and trapped, which is what I think is really interesting. Ordinary people driven by pride or fear, causing harm to other people who aren't inherently bad, but have made it their terrible thing. Like this old man is like pleading him, saying, I made a mistake. I thought it was this other woman. I walked in. When I realized that it all happened so fast, I ran off. I swear to God, I just ran off. And we don't know what happened, right? Because we're not seeing the scene. But so we're left with everybody's like point of view and this ambiguity. But at the end, you're just stuck with a bunch of ordinary people making bad choices and getting worse at it. And that's the beautiful Farhadi stroke of like the writing of this film, right? Or all of his work, to be honest. I remember when seeing this in theaters that the reveal of the scars on the foot had left like a gasp in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Really powerful film all around. Should we move to behind the scenes and trivia?
Yep.
Behind the scenes and trivia. Do you have stuff or do you have anything you want to add? Or should I just rapid fire a bunch of stuff?
The only one I have is that the book that they're reading in the class is The Cow.
Yeah. By
Saadi.
Yeah.
And then the movie that they're watching is Mehjoui's movie.
Yeah, yeah. So they're essentially doing a whole course on New Wave Iranian cinema, but also the book that it's adapted on.
Yeah. And then obviously the play that he's acting in is Death of a Salesman.
Yeah. That wouldn't be behind the scenes. That's all surface level. That's just content.
That's just on the scene.
Farhadi was so taken by this project as he continued developing it that he decided to stop his current ongoing project that he was shooting in Spain with Penelope Cruz, which is called Everybody Knows, which I've seen and I really don't like. And he returned to Iran to shoot this movie on the spot. Like he was getting so excited that I think he took a hiatus from Everybody Knows.
To go shoot this and then come back?
To shoot this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because he was getting excited about it. The movie broke the opening weekend box office record in Iran. It was released in August 2016 and broke every record, becoming the third highest grossing film in Iran's local box office history. So I guess not every record, but broke a lot of records. This is the fourth movie directed by Asghar Farhadi to be chosen as Iran's submission for the Academy Awards for Best Foreign Language Film. Do you know what the other films were?
One of them was A Separation.
Yeah. A Separation 2011. Yeah.
One of them was The Children of Heaven or Paradise or something, or Color of Paradise.
No. Farhadi's films.
Oh.
4 of Farhadi's films have been chosen.
Oh, about Ellie?
About Ellie and the past.
Oh,
and The Salesman.
okay.
So 4 of Farhadi's films have been submitted to the Oscars. A Separation and The Salesman were both nominated for an Oscar, and they both ended up winning, as we both know. Farhadi's second Oscar win is also Iran's second Oscar win in the history of Iranian cinema.
And wasn't his first one the first Oscar win in the history?
He's the only Iranian who's ever won. A few days after the Oscar nominations were announced and the movie was included among the 5 nominees for Best Foreign Language Film, Farhadi made a statement that he would not attend the ceremony due to Donald Trump's executive orders barring Iranians from entering in the U.S. When the Oscar was awarded to the film, Anousheh Ansari read his prepared statement during the acceptance speech, saying,
I'm sorry I'm not with you tonight. My absence is out of respect for the people of my country and those of other 6 nations whom have been disrespected by the inhumane law that bans entry of immigrants to the U.S. Thank you. Dividing the world into the us and our enemies categories creates fear, a deceitful justification for aggression and war. These wars prevent democracy and human rights in countries which have themselves been victims of aggression. Filmmakers can turn their cameras to capture shared human qualities and break stereotypes of various nationalities and religions. They create empathy between us and others, an empathy which we need today more than ever. Thank you on behalf of Mr. Farhadi. Thank you.
On the 29th of January, Farhadi wrote to the New York Times that he originally planned to attend this ceremony and draw the media's attention to the unjust circumstances, believing that the Academy Awards would share his moderate position. He also compared the ban to the rhetoric of hardliners in Iran. On the 30th of January, Australian director George Miller, of Mad Max fame, supported Farhadi's decision, saying that the irrational craziness is affecting the US and the rest of the world. During early production, he posted a social media post, an ad asking people to send in self-tape auditions. So he had thousands of Iranians participating in auditions for this.
This is like Salam Cinema, but digital, and nobody got trampled.
Yeah. This is Farhadi's fourth collaboration with the two leads, Tarna Ali Dusti and Shahab Hosseini. Man, they're both such good actors.
He looked different in this.
Who did?
Shahab Hosseini. He looks like his in A Separation.
Yeah.
He looks a lot more like small and skinny.
Yeah.
And like a small guy. In this, he looks built. Like he looks like buff.
Yeah. I just think he's such a good actor.
Yeah, he's really good.
Same with Tarna Ali Dusti. Receiving the Oscar on Asghar Farhadi's behalf was Anusha Ansari, who's an astronaut, and Professor Firuz Naderi, who retired from NASA in 2016.
Oh my God.
He was in charge of the Mars project there, and NASA honored him by naming an asteroid Naderi after him. And Anusha Ansari was the first female Iranian astronaut. So these are the two that accepted the award on his behalf.
Wild.
With winning his second Oscar, Farhadi became the sixth director after Bergman, Fellini, De Sica, Kurosawa, René Clément to win 2 or more Oscars for Best Foreign Language Film. That is a very short list of really amazing directors.
Yeah, legit.
So, okay, here. The original title of Salesman, Berasad Bedaste Ahu, delivered to Ahu. But then in the middle of shooting, the name changed to the Salesman. I'll just tell you right now. Do you know why it's called that? Because knowing this, I caught it 3 times in the film.
The name of the sex worker?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's her name as much as it's just like a term of endearment they're giving her. Like, because Ahu means deer,
yeah,
right?
but it's also her name. It's the name of the sex
It's
worker.
actually her name?
Yeah.
I just thought they were calling her Ahu like little deer. Like someone might say like Juje.
No, that's her name. Like other clients.
Is Ahu a name?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So yeah, because Bobak is heard calling her that on the phone, on the message he leaves her. And that's the thing that the stranger had entered the room saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Delivered to Ahu was the original title of this film.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a play within the film, Farhadi researched the works of Jean-Paul Sartre and Henrik Ibsen before finding Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, which he described as a gift for me. In Miller's play and in his script, Farhadi said he found parallel themes of humiliation and also compared the relationship between his characters Ranaa and Emad to that of Linda and Willie Loman. More symbolism was added with the crumbling buildings, which Farhadi said represented crumbling relationships. Did you hear the song? Do you know the song Pish Daramad by Ali Azimi? It's that one with all the music. The music video for it is a bunch of movie scenes clipped together. Mm-hmm. It was actually edited by Arash Ashtiani, who's been on our show.
Cool.
He was the actor from Holy. It's a really great song, and that's the song that's playing when they're moving into the apartment. And she starts, when everything's like all happy and going well, she's like humming the song. It's a great song, and it's also in that music video. It's a song, like the song contains a lot of Iranian cinema clips. Critical reactions. This won the 2017 Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film. It was nominated for a BAFTA that same year for Best Foreign Language Film. In Cannes, it won Best Actor and Best Screenplay, Shahab Hosseini and Asghar Farhadi, respectively. And it was a nominee for the Palme d'Or. In the New York Times, A.O. Scott wrote that it's not initially clear why Death of a Salesman was selected, but Willie Loman's presence soon became felt and favorably compared the use of the play to All About My Mother's use of A Streetcar Named Desire. Have you seen Pedro Almodovar films?
No.
He's the best. He's like, honestly, the best. He's my favorite. Jonathan Rosenbaum wrote in Chicago Reader that the film was intense.
Jonathan Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I knew you'd get excited. Comparing it to Elia Kazan, who directed On the Waterfront. Masoud Kimiai, the director of The Deer, Reza, had said when Farhadi won a second Oscar, he said Farhadi had worked and he had worked hard. He's a skillful cinema man, a pure one, holding one Oscar in each hand. Let's cherish Farhadi instead of bothering with envy. Even seeing him win one over Trump is a complete pleasure. Asghar Farhadi has found a special place in my heart. He had written an open letter celebrating Farhadi in a newspaper called Har.
Solid. I wonder what he was responding to with the whole rather than like go after him for envy. Like,
I think he was sort of just saying that, like, in the longer version of that thing, he's like, hearing this happen makes me jealous, makes us filmmakers who have worked very hard in this country jealous.
right.
Like, it's a long open letter. And then he says, like, but despite all these feelings of envy that we filmmakers have, we're also very proud of him.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
think he was just being very candid about his feelings.
That's fair. I mean, when this was the first Iranian film I saw in theaters, and I remember at the time this was around the time I had like finished college. I was meeting more and more Iranians, and all these Iranians that I was meeting, none of them were going to see Salesman because they had seen a separation, and they were like, it was really stressful, and my life is already stressful. I don't want to spend 2 hours of free time watching stressful shit.
Right.
Like if I'm watching Iranian movies, I want to watch something that's going to make me feel joy.
Yeah.
So I can understand why some Iranians were like, because the sentiment at the time was that the international community only appreciates our stories when it's talking about how terrible our lives are.
Yeah.
So I can understand a bit of that sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, on a lighter side, this film at Cannes won the unofficial Palme de Whiskers in recognition of a featured cat, Meow the Tehran street cat.
Solid.
So I don't know how this film could be that depressing if it won the Palme de Whiskers.
Wasn't the same cat though. I noticed in some scenes the cat was smaller. Or it is the same cat and it's just shot out of order and the cat's getting bigger.
The Persian playwright and filmmaker Bahram Beyzai congratulated Farhadi on his Academy Award in a voice message played in public by Hayede Safiari, the editor of the film.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay, let's go deeper analysis.
You got?
Have you read or seen any adaptation of Death of a Salesman?
No. I know the broad strokes of it. I didn't want to read about it too much because I thought you telling me about it would actually make for content.
Yeah, okay. So basically the story is about Willie Loman. He's a struggling salesman, and it's specifically post-war America. And part of the thing is like, it's about the death of a dream, or the idea that if you're a charismatic person who's popular, these are the keys to success. And he grows increasingly disillusioned with his career, and he's really upset with the situation with his family and his identity and who he is. And he's essentially forced to confront this gap between reality and the dreams that he was hoping to have. It's like a rude wake-up call for him, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, the movie jumps between past and present, which The Salesman doesn't do, but it kind of goes back to like Willie Loman talking to his son Biff and talking about the rules to achieving success and finding success in a way he never could. But ultimately, do you know what happens at the end of Death of a Salesman?
What? Oh yeah, I do know.
It's in the title.
Yeah, he kills himself.
Yeah. He can't really accept the change or like redefine his own self-worth. So he essentially commits suicide. I think it's implied, if I remember correctly, that it's a car accident, but it's implied that he deliberately caused the car accident for the insurance payout.
Yeah.
Here's the parallels between Death of a Salesman and Farhadi Salesman. The big themes, if you think about that idea, like the idea of identity and self-worth, right? I feel like Emad in this film, it's a quest for him trying to discover his self-worth as a man. Like Farhadi's really describing a lot of masculinity, the sense of your identity as a man who's supposed to be a protector. You're supposed to protect your family. You're supposed to protect your wife. The humiliation that comes with if you feel like you've failed at those things. Like Willie Loman's big thing is like he feels humiliated because he can't be a provider for his family. And Emad is like humiliated because he feels like he can't be a protector of his wife.
Yeah.
And the potential family they want to start.
Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier, but Farhadi points to humiliation as a major theme, linking the play and his film, a theme that also speaks to the film's subsequent challenges in the Oscars. Willie Loman constantly gets humiliated by his sons, the society, neighbors. This is what Farhadi says. These humiliations force him to take revenge on himself and destroy himself. In my story, too, Emad gets humiliated by his surroundings. These instances of humiliation persuade him to take revenge. We see this guy on this exhaustive and like obsessive quest to find revenge. But at what point does it become he wants revenge for his wife, or does he need revenge for himself?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at this quest for revenge. Even when it comes down to you finding out who the villain of the story is, his wife doesn't want him to continue this act of revenge. She's like, let him go.
Yeah.
But he can't.
I don't even think like when he's hounding his wife for details about like what happened, to what extent, whatever, I don't think he is asking out of concern for her. I think he's asking out of concern for himself, because he's like, this is my wife and I won't stand for someone having like defiled something of mine.
Yeah.
He sees her as his belonging, as his like object.
And because he's also forced to confront like the uncomfortable truths about himself.
Yeah.
And his limitations. And one of the main things I thought was a really interesting takeaway. Do you remember that scene when he's in the back of the taxi car?
Yeah.
And he's sitting next to a woman stranger and his student is in the front seat.
Mm-hmm.
The woman's like asking him to like sit straight and not rub so close against him.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where she asked the driver, can I switch spots with this student? Mm-hmm. Because this man's making me uncomfortable. And like, he's embarrassed.
Yeah.
Emad's like embarrassed by this. And to the point where the student later on has to say, listen, this woman, we really got upset. Even after you left, we told her that you're a good man, you're a teacher, like you would never do these things, like try to like rub up against her or whatever. And he's like, this is before the events go down. He's like, listen, she probably is a victim of some sort of attack or assault at some point, and she's scared and worried or whatever. It's like, these are the themes.
Yeah.
He was embarrassed, but at the beginning of the film, he's a guy who can like sympathize with those emotions.
You know what I think might have been like kind of interesting?
Yeah.
Is if in that scene, if he had said something along the lines of like, you know how it's like, oh, believe all women? If he kind of said like the opposite, if he's like, oh, women will always lie, blah, 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 blah. So that when he's faced with the reality of his own wife, he's having to like challenge himself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just feel like it wouldn't be in his character to feel that way.
Yeah, maybe
like,
you're right.
It wouldn't make him a very compelling character to go on this case if that's how he felt.
Maybe you're right. Going back to the thing with Death of a Salesman and how it's essentially commentary on the death of the American dream in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think that this movie in a lot of ways is also like the death of the Iranian dream.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
After the revolution.
Yeah.
We're going into the revolution. Everybody's like, oh yeah, everything's going to be better. Like we're going to fix all these problems, blah, 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 blah. And then even in that scene where they're talking about the city and he's like, oh, we need to tear down the city and just like build something new.
Yeah.
And then his colleague is like, we did that once. We already tore it all down and this is what we rebuilt.
Yeah.
Even down to like, I think the depth of potentially, and I could be reaching, I don't know, but how this person assaulted his wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the husband and wife like did everything the way that they should, right? They like have jobs, extracurricular activities, they're like living a life, all this stuff, and they're doing everything that should lead to like a good life, but then this terrible thing happens to them anyway, right? And this terrible thing happens, and really what it does is it assaults the wife. It attacks her, right?
Right.
Everybody else surrounding this has to is confronted with the repercussions of all of it.
Yeah.
Right? And the fallout of it.
Yeah.
And finally, when the guy is confronted about it, at first he's like denying, and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like I was weak, I was tempted, blah, 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 blah. Which to me, it kind of plays into this whole thing of how the revolution happened and how it disproportionately impacted the lives of women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how a lot of these older men from that generation, if you were to ask them, the men who were involved in the revolution would say like, oh, we were like fooled, we were tricked, we were seduced by this idea and we didn't know any better, blah, blah, blah. So
yeah, there's definitely parallels, especially the thing you're saying about like the broken city and how he's talking about how we should bulldoze this place down and rebuild. And it's like, we've already done that. That is definitely like the themes also, Death of a Salesman. It's funny because what you're saying about the revolution and stuff, I'd heard a quote where Farhadi said that he doesn't see this as an Iranian film. He sees this as a film that could take place anywhere in the world. But at the same token, I feel like, and I think he followed up with some sort of agreeing with what I'm about to say, but like the idea that there are very specific circumstances that are Iranian centric in this film that wouldn't happen if it took place in Canada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, there's a bunch of bad cops everywhere in the world, but also like if this happened in Canada, you call the cops.
Yeah.
Because the cops are going to like follow up with an investigation.
Yep.
On a woman who's attacked in her home.
Yep.
Whereas like they know, they're like, you kind of can't because the patriarchal system here doesn't really favor women to listen to them as much. And so there is something inherently Iranian about this film, even though he's sort of making the claim that in one breath he believes this could happen anywhere, but he also believes there's certain Iranianness, centricness to this film.
Yeah.
But again, like themes of masculinity and pride, the role of performance and identity. They're literally performers on stage. Mm-hmm. They're actors performing as different people. But then it's like the performance of being a provider for your wife, the performance for being a strong male in Iranian society. You know, these are all the things that there's playing. The repression of like both Farhadi and Arthur Miller's Willie Loman, they can't express their trauma and pain. Mm-hmm. Like they can't properly articulate what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
There's an avoidance of emotional confrontation, especially when you go around vulnerability. So the repression leads to like moral and emotional decay in both these things, the Salesman and Death of a Salesman. Because these men just can't like express their feelings. They just need to go to therapy instead of like chasing these like wild things. The last thing I want to say was, this is a really interesting thing I thought of. That woman who lived in the house previous to them, what is everyone claiming that she was?
Sex worker.
Yeah. What evidence in the film is there that she's a sex worker?
The words of everybody else. Also
that's it.
No, but the guy as well. The old man.
The guy what though? But his words and his actions.
Yeah.
We never see the woman.
Yeah.
Every physical piece of tangible evidence we have of what this woman's life is so she's a mother. Mm-hmm. There's kids' drawings on the walls. Mm-hmm. There's a kid's bike in the hallway. Mm-hmm. There's just like shoes and clothing in that room. Mm-hmm. There's no external evidence that this woman was a sex worker. I'm not saying she isn't, but I find it very interesting that we never see her. We never hear from her. We only get everyone else's portrayal of the fact that she's a sex worker. And I think that's part of the interesting thing, because they literally say to her, well, you don't want to go to the cops and you don't want neighbors talking because you don't want people to what they think about you. So who's to say what everyone else is saying? Just because this guy enters her room and has been there before and leaves money on the table and thinks that there's a sex worker there. This could have been a woman who was a bit promiscuous and wanted to sleep with men or whatever. It doesn't mean she was a sex worker. I'm just saying that we literally, outside of the words of men and gossipy neighbors, we have no tangible proof that she was actually a sex worker. And I think there's a thematic point to that. This idea of like the woman who's sitting next to him on the taxi and saying like, please don't come close to me. And he's like, you know, she was probably a victim of sexual abuse at some point. That's why she's like threatened by me next to her. Or like this idea that like the stranger walking into the room and seeing Ranaa, and he thinks she's a prostitute. Like he's like, once I realized it wasn't her, I still approached her because I was tempted. The stranger enters the room thinking Ranaa's a prostitute. There's no evidence Ranaa's a prostitute. She's not a prostitute. She's an actress, right?
Yeah.
The whole reason he advanced on her, he's like, oh, there's another prostitute in this room. I'm going to leave my money and I'm going to touch her hair in the shower or whatever. And like, it's just like,
I don't know. I feel like with the case of Ahu, I feel like it's a bit of a reach.
Well, okay, let me give you this last example. Do you remember that friend Sanam, who's the other actress who plays in Death of a Salesman? She plays a prostitute.
Yeah.
She's the one with the kid, the adorable kid with the glasses.
Yeah.
At one point when she's performing a line, one of the other actors breaks out laughing and she gets really upset. And he's like, listen, I'm just laughing because you said that I'm going to change into these clothes and you're wearing really skimpy clothes. And she's like, you can't disrespect me just because I'm playing the role of a hooker. She's upset. She's literally insulted because her playing the role of the hooker, she feels is demeaning to her because the actors are making fun of her for like the way she's playing the part. It's literally one of the moments of like infighting within the scene. And it's happening with the character who's playing a prostitute. So I'm just saying, theoretically, there is something being said here about the role of women, the perception of women in Iran. And just because the men have decided this woman's a prostitute, they're going to treat her a certain way, or Ranaa's treated like we literally never see a single prostitute in this film.
I was already thinking that my deeper analysis was a bit of a reach, because I was like, based on like what Farhadi said about how the film is commentary on revenge and him getting revenge on himself and for himself and whatever, like that version of things to me almost indicates that he's trying to use this woman, Ranaa, and her trauma as almost like a prop or like a narrative device to push Emad further.
Yeah.
and I don't like that. And that's why I'm like, I feel like it's already a little bit of a stretch that I'm giving this credit to Farhadi to be like, it's probably commentary on Iranian society, post-revolution, all this stuff. Especially given that he's like, no, this movie is about society anywhere or whatever. That I already think that's a bit of a stretch. So for you, your theory here that it's meant to be vague and that we don't know beyond the evidence that the movie presents.
But it's not a theory. It's literally it's the text. We don't, outside of the words that people say, we don't ever see this woman. We don't know anything about her.
But everything we know about her, but everything we do know about her is that she was a sex worker.
No, that's just the words that other people are saying. That's my point.
I understand that. I'm saying that is what we're presented as an audience. Is like, this is the truth.
We're saying the same thing then.
Sure.
Right, but I think we never like.
But I don't think it's
we
done
never
like
see this
that.
woman to have an assessment.
Right, but I don't think it's done like that intentionally to seem vague and open ended. I think Farhadi's intention there is 100% that yes, she's a sex worker.
I don't care what his intention was. I'm telling you from a critical analysis of audience member watching a movie that I can extract that we do not know anything about this woman.
Okay, fair
other
enough.
than what people are saying.
Fair enough. Because even my deeper analysis, I don't think is Farhadi's intention, but it's something I'm extracting from it. So that's fair.
What's your deeper analysis?
What I said about how it's like commentary on.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah.
About the past and the revolution.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there, like when you're talking about Ranaa is confused for being a prostitute when she wasn't.
Yeah.
An actress on stage is getting offended because she's playing the role of a prostitute and they're laughing at her and saying, you can't talk to me that way because I'm a prostitute. Then you have neighbors and an elderly man who's clearly some sort of John or something, or like, I'm saying she might have been. I'm saying this woman probably was a sex worker, but I'm just saying that the actions of men do not dictate what this person was. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We only know this because this man came into a room, left money, and then attacked the woman he thought was in there.
Right, yeah.
That does not make someone a prostitute. Like, there's been a lot of times in the past, unfortunately, and it's being uncovered, especially since the Me Too movement, where it's like the men were like, she gave me all the signs that she wanted it, or like she did this and she teased me and flirted with me. So, like, how much have we seen in the history of presumptuous men thinking that they know their role around women?
Yeah, that's
and what
fair.
they can or cannot do with them.
Yeah, that's fair.
So all we're ever given when we physically don't see this woman, literally don't see her, don't know anything about her, all we physically literally see is that she's a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way men are confronting with her and deciding the neighbors are gossiping about her and stuff is not enough to be like, this woman for sure was a prostitute. And I think that's one of the interesting things about this film. Like, don't you think it's kind of interesting that Farhadi chose to never see her?
I guess. But maybe. Yeah, because if he wanted to keep like adding layers of like complexity, he could have easily had her show up like with her kid.
Yeah.
Which seems like something that like Farhadi would almost do.
Farhadi said during a TIFF screening that my mother was at when she saw this film, was one audience member lifted up, raised their hand and said, so what happened in the bathroom that day? Like, I'm really curious to know, like, what was the events that actually went down in the bathroom? And you know what Farhadi said?
What? It's up to you?
He said, I don't know. I wasn't there. Which is a little pretentious because I feel like as a writer, you should know. But also,
we've talked about this before in the separation.
But it's like I think that's kind of his thing of like, he leaves space for interpretation.
Yeah.
It's that muddy zone of like, when you don't know what happens, so you can kind of, as an audience member, make up your story. Because that's all we're left with in society.
Here's my thing on that. I think that ambiguous endings are totally fine, but I think that the filmmaker should at least have their own interpretation of the ending. Whether they choose to tell people or not, I think is different.
Yeah.
But like, for example, the ending of Inception, Christopher Nolan won't say whether or not he's asleep, but he says he knows the answer, and he's also said there's enough clues in the film to give you the answer. Right?
Yeah.
Which to me, that's like a much more effective way to do these more open-ended endings. And I do believe that this film gives you enough evidence to know what happened.
Yeah.
But the fact that Farhadi is like, I don't know, I wasn't there, I think it's so pretentious, and it goes back to my issues.
Well, he's not the only, like, do you know what's in the back of the trunk in Pulp Fiction? Because Tarantino knows, but he won't say.
And I like that.
Well, why?
Because then at least the writer has like an answer. It's like it's not just like a mystery box of like.
I think Farhadi knows.
You think he knows?
I think Farhadi knows what happened. I think that he didn't want to sit there on the stage and give the answer. I mean, he said that with a smile and the audience laughed.
Right.
So he was being coy at best. Or, maybe he doesn't. I can't say what's in his mind. But I think when he gives an answer like, I don't know, I wasn't there, it's his way of saying, I'm not answering that question for you.
Also, what's in the back of the trunk in Pulp Fiction is not like the catalyst. Like what's in there doesn't really matter in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both MacGuffins.
Maybe, but one of them is a MacGuffin that like deeply impacts a character and is like trauma that's going to like mess up their life. If it's this way or that way, will actually impact the way that we judge characters. That's not the case in Pulp Fiction. In Pulp Fiction, it's just a mystery box.
Yeah, they're different. They're just different types of MacGuffins, but MacGuffin being a thing that moves the plot, propels the plot forward, and like is the inciting incident for action. They are both MacGuffins. One of them is a traumatic one that could also, like you're right. But they are both MacGuffins. Best scene. I have kind of two. My real favorite scene is everything with the old man, the last 40 minutes. But that's so long that it doesn't really feel like a scene. It's half the movie. So like to give a smaller scene, I really like the scene when he's taking the phone from the students. Remember when they're watching the cow, he falls asleep and the kid films him? Yeah. I think that movie really encapsulates like he's really feeling threatened. He's tired. He's feeling stressed out. His masculinity is being challenged. And then like this student films him and he's like, give me your phone. He takes these like, the guy keeps apologizing and he's like, give me my phone. This isn't right. Like I have private photos on that. And then he's like, go call your father and tell him what disgusting photos you have. And he's like, his father's passed away. Like, it's just like really sad. Like, I really feel for everyone. And you see the students losing the respect for this teacher they once really cared about.
Yeah.
Powerful scene.
The confrontation with that kid and the phone is just so tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it almost feels like a tense scene between like a killer and their victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very tense.
So same scene?
No, my favorite scene is actually the first scene in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing how which nicely contrasts your favorite scene, because it shows how he's this like lovable, almost father-like figure to these kids, or even like an uncle or like an older brother. He jokes around with them. He like lets them have their fun. He's very playful. They all clearly love and respect him a lot.
Yeah.
Which when that confrontation happens later, it makes it so much more tense.
Yeah.
And I think the other students in that scene, when they're all like trying to plead with him to chill, I think they're doing it because they recognize that like something's off about him.
And and I just realized now, how much does the men pleading with him to chill, how much does that mirror the final scene with his wife telling him to chill?
Yeah.
But he can't, like his own sense of like threatened pride and threatened masculinity. He's like, no, I have to see this through.
Yeah.
But it's like nobody around you wants you to do this.
Yeah.
And he destroys his relationship with his wife at the end. He destroys his relationship with his students because they come and see him at the plane. You can see like their faces and like they're not the same.
Yeah.
They don't have the adoration they once had. And it's like this man, this is the tragedy. This is the death of the salesman like parallel. It's like the guy like essentially killed his reputation over this like meaningless hunt. I mean, it's meaningful, but
in his pursuit of redeeming his reputation, he like actually destroyed it so much more.
By the way, I want to add, did you notice there's two, in my opinion, I think one of them is more on the surface level for sure. One of them might be a reach, but there's two references to Downpour I caught.
Okay.
First of all, he's like a beloved teacher who's like charming and like is winning over students. That's not even one of them. But when they're first moving into that apartment, the first move after their place, one of them's carrying a giant mirror up the stairs, and the actual shot is of like the town, the cityscape, whatever. Then you like zoom back and you realize you're not actually seeing the shot. You're seeing the shot in the reflection of a mirror. Yeah. And someone's carrying a massive mirror. That is the exact opening of, he's carrying a massive mirror in the beginning of Downpour. Do you remember when he's moving in? And I was like, that feels like a Downpour reference.
Is the next one a lamp?
No, I actually looked for it if he brought the other stuff. I didn't see the other stuff, which I would have liked if he had done all three. But the other one is when he's going to the art teacher friend to ask for like, hey, your brother's a cop, right? Can you get me the license plate? Or remember the thing he's asking for, the registration?
Yeah, his dad,
That is in a room full of people painting, and all the walls are stacked with chairs.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Tables
yeah,
and
that
stuff,
one
all stacked on top of each other. And I was like, this reminds me exactly like when they're doing that rebuilding, the room remodeling of the chairs in Downpour.
Yeah, that one 100%.
And I wondered if that was a nod too.
Yeah, that one 100% reminded me of it too.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure those are deliberate.
Yeah, I think so
They
too.
look so similar. Like you could do a side by side. I mean, I feel like if we almost do like a promo for this scene right here, like you could do a side by side of like these two shots right now and the mirror shots and see that there is a reference.
Yeah.
Damn, that's poetry. What's your damn that's poetry?
One of the students puts up his hand and he goes, "Sir, how does one become a cow?" And then he says, "Gradually."
حالا آقا واقعا چجوری آدم گاو میشه؟
به مرور.
That's a very good one. And does he become a cow? Is that what we're believing?
Yeah,
Is that
I
what
would
it's
say so.
setting up to? Yeah. I had one that you'd mentioned already. It's what are they doing to the city? I wish we could bulldoze this city to the ground and start over. And then to which Babak says they did that once. They ruined the city once. They built it again and now this is it.
چیکار دارم میکنم با این شهر؟ دلم میخواست میشد یه لودر گذاشت زیر این شهر همه رو خراب کرد دوباره از نو ساخت. والا
بابا همه اینا رو یه بار خراب کردن دوباره ساختن این عذاب در اومده.
Favorite performance. Okay, this one's very, very tough for me because at first I was like, well, it's going to be Shahab Hosseini for sure. And then Tana Ali Dosti is so good. And literally, I'm like, okay, it's for sure Tana Ali Dosti. And then like Shahab Hosseini in the last 40 minutes is so good again. They're like, okay, it's Shahab Hosseini. And I just have to get it's a tie. I cannot pick one over the other. It's the two.
That's funny. Neither of them is mine.
Great. It's the kid with the glasses?
Yeah, kid with the guy. That kid is so cute.
He's so cute. It's nauseatingly cute.
Yeah. Farid Sajadi Hosseini.
Oh, yeah. He plays the old man.
Yeah,
He's so
Farid
good too.
Hosseini. He's like, he's very, very good in this film.
Yeah. For such a small, like he just shows up and kills his two scenes.
Yeah.
And then like, so that he's a
Especially
filmmaker
like,
too.
The first time when he's like interrogating him, he's like, I didn't even step foot in the washroom, blah, blah, blah. I believed him. And then between the two scenes, I was like, wait a second. He did go in the washroom because we know that this and this happened in the washroom. So at least he went into the washroom. And then when I came back to him, he's like, I'm sorry. I was tempted, blah, blah, blah. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I believed him the first time. Like, he's like very good.
He's so good because it's like layered and there's like an arc to his performance.
Yeah.
The other thing is, full disclosure, I wept. It's my fourth time seeing this movie, and I've never wept in this movie. And I cried so hard when his wife shows up and his kids, and they're like thanking they're thanking Rana and Emad.
Yeah.
I felt so sad for him.
Yeah.
He was like embarrassed and humiliated, and he's got nothing left. He's begging him time and time again. He's begging Emad. He's like, please don't call them. You know, I like as a father now, maybe it might be that because he was like, don't embarrass me in front of my daughter. Don't do this. It really is a testament to Farhadi's writing of like, this guy like sexually assaulted a woman.
Yeah.
At very least assaulted a woman.
And he like successfully makes you like almost feel bad
so
for him.
much sympathy for him.
Yeah. I think it's
insane.
I give a lot of props to when writers can like write the most messed up characters and then make you sympathize. Like Game of Thrones does this a lot.
Yeah.
Where they'll be like, this is the worst human being possible.
Yeah.
And then like 2 seasons, 3 seasons in, you're like, God damn it.
Yeah.
The Boys does that really well. And The Boys does it with a character where you're like, this character is despicable. And then you think that they're like becoming better, and then all of a sudden they become despicable again. You're like, wow, they did it twice with the same character.
Yeah, it's just so impressive, and yeah, the performance is so good. I got so teary-eyed emotional.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely I had to like take a moment because I just thought my heart breaks for everyone in this family. Like the wife, just like so like conservative and slow to run up the stairs to be like, my husband, you know, I told you not to take that shit. I just felt my heart broke for the entire family.
Yeah. She is also incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
The old lady.
Yeah. They just feel so real.
Yeah. That old lady.
They feel like real.
That old lady almost stole the show for me. Like she was almost my favorite performance.
Yeah.
And she comes in for one scene and kills it. Like one scene comes in, one and done, and she's like incredible.
Yeah. It's insane. So, okay, I was on to say this too. That actor who plays the character's name is Peter Mad in the Farid Sajadi Hosseini. Yeah. He's a filmmaker too. Like, so his IMDb credits have a couple of TV series and a movie too. So he's like a TV director, which is just interesting because I think he does more acting roles, but like still just someone probably Farhadi knew and was like, hey, you want to play this role? And then the guy just kills it. Festival of Cons.
I only have one. And it's that.
I have one thematic one.
Okay, what is
but
it?
Is it yours? The cats look different?
No. I chalked that up to the movie probably being shot out of order, and it was probably a kitten in the first scene, and by the last scene with the cat, he probably grew up a little.
Here's my festival con. Does Ranaa become a supporting character in her own story? Because I feel like something happens to her, but the whole film is look how this affects him.
Yes, and that's why I was like, after hearing Farhadi's comment on the film, I was like, oh, I don't think his intention was my deeper analysis of it. Because he's totally using her and the trauma that she goes through as like a prop or like a plot device for his character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a bit of like a old school, like male masculine lens of looking at problems.
Yeah.
She's been attacked and assaulted, but the story is all about how he's going to rise above this or come crashing from what happened. And it's like, because I feel like Tana Ali Ducey's character is sort of, for the most part, except for the final scenes, like relegated to like she's now in PTSD mode and can't really participate in the rest of the film.
Yeah, and I feel like I would have felt differently if the movie was framed very clearly like this is a movie about this guy. And that's also why, like, for me at least, if he had been set up as more of like a guy who didn't believe women, all this stuff, then now he's being challenged, then at least we're seeing like, okay, this is the journey of this character. I think that there's a way to successfully tell the story of this guy through this.
Yeah.
I think that the way that it was done, makes her feel more like a plot device.
Yeah.
My main festival of con is just Farhadi once again is almost scared to make a statement. And I don't think that I don't think it needed to be ambiguous of like what kind of assault it was or if he even touched her or whatever. I think it's a lot more complex if he is guilty. That being said, I do believe that there's more than enough evidence to suggest that it was sexual assault. How far it went can stay vague. Like, I don't think that that's an issue. But like, at the very least, like, I think it's like highly, highly, highly suggested that he touched her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
grabbed her hair at very least, or touched her, ran his fingers through her hair.
And I think that for me, the part that I'm okay with being vague is whether or not he lives or dies at the end. You know what I mean?
Right.
That part I'm like totally fine with. It comes back to the same thing with a separation where I don't mind the ambiguity, but I need you to make a statement as a filmmaker.
Okay, hold on. Can I just push back on a few things here?
Yeah.
First of all, I think he is making lots of statements as a filmmaker.
Okay, go ahead.
Like everything we've talked about this entire podcast are the statements with that you can extrapolate.
Yeah. No, fair.
But what I will say, and
I'm not saying he's making no statements.
The thing I'm going to respectfully disagree with is, and this is just a subject of taste, so we don't need to belabor the point. But I personally think him not telling us is what makes this film masterful. Whether or not he knows himself, that's up to debate. We can't get inside his head. But I think large portion of this point, it puts us in the vehicle of the Emad character, and Emad not knowing the exact details of what down is what propels the story forward. And us not knowing and never really getting a full answer is talking about the neorealist idea of like, sometimes in life is messy and you won't get the answers. What are you going to do then? Mm-hmm. So from my personal taste, and the same with separation, is that like, there's certain things in life you aren't going to get the answer to. We are put in the exact same mindset as the main character for this film because he doesn't quite know exactly what happened and he's trying to get those answers from his wife and he's not really getting them. So he's obsessed. And I think because we don't know and he doesn't know, we're like the moral quandaries and the blurred lines of what happened with this guy. What did he do? How innocent is he and all this stuff is way more interesting because we don't know. That's just my personal take on that.
Maybe.
It's just subject to taste. I mean, I feel like there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's just what you prefer to know. And I think it's so much stronger not knowing.
I just think that, like, again, I think that there's enough evidence there to suggest like a real answer. So it doesn't bother me as much in this as it does in Separation. Like this to me is closer to like the ending of Inception.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you're paying attention, you have the answer. But I still think that like it's a stronger ending and I think it's more complex if you know.
Yeah, I don't agree.
And I still feel like I know, so like I don't really care as much with this film. Again, it's more a thing of like I would have been more frustrated if it was a little more vague. I'm there's just enough here that I'm giving it a pass.
Well, I think it would have been a weaker film if we knew more.
Yeah, that's because you're stupid.
I think it's different from a separation because of the fact that this is, like you said, this is actually an inciting incident to the events. So, like, the details would matter if it's the type of film that it's about what actually happened. Mm-hmm. But it's not a film about that. But a separation, this is like, I think it's a different type of not revealing because you're saying that it's the revelation at the end, which I don't want to go through this route again. But whether or not the daughter picks the husband or the wife, anyways, doesn't matter. We don't need to go through that route again.
Yeah.
Double feature lineup.
What you got?
Is it obvious?
Better not be Death of a Salesman or The Cow.
It's Dustin Hoffman's Death of a Salesman, the 1985 version. It's not Dustin. He's in it. He plays Willy Loman. It's directed by Volker Schlondorf.
Classic Schlondorf.
Schlondorf. It's the only version of the film I've seen, but from all the things I remember reading and the stuff we discussed about in class, it was it's actually Dustin Hoffman's take on Willy Loman is apparently the furthest from Arthur Miller's intentions of what that character should be. But apparently that's also why a lot of film critics describe it as like a very interesting take for that reason.
It's like fresh.
Yeah, it's just very different. And the Dustin Hoffman is they're just doing something very against grain, I guess.
Right.
From what I'm not a perfect scholar on this, but because I haven't seen other versions to compare it to. Yeah, it would be interesting to just watch this film and then see like the 1985 Death of a Salesman film.
Yeah.
To find the parallels and themes and stuff.
Yeah.
What's yours? Inception?
Batman Begins.
Yeah, of course.
Because Nocturnal Animals.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I love that movie. Tom Ford's great.
Yeah. Dark, twisted, complicated, involves similar themes.
Yeah.
Like it's like a reverse allegory where in this, the play is less dark.
Yeah.
And the sexual assault happens in real life.
Yeah.
But in Nocturnal Animals, it's real life that almost has the opposite effect, right? Where in Nocturnal Animals, the book is way more on the nose.
The book in Nocturnal Animals is darker.
Yes, is darker.
And it's metaphor. It's a darker metaphor
and it's
for
not
the stuff
subtle.
that he's going
It's
through.
very on the nose.
Yeah.
In this, it's the other way around, where the play is much less dark and it's much more subtle with its allegory of the conflict. But they tackle similar themes, just like almost in like a reverse way.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I didn't think about that, but I like it. A lot of similar themes.
Yeah. I'm more than just Batman and Marvel.
Can this be a modern Hollywood remake?
I don't need it to be.
Yeah, I say no. Like, this film is still too fresh and new and good. I don't want to see an adaptation of this for like 50 years in any language.
Yeah.
Maybe in 50 years. 2075.
Yeah.
Final thoughts and grades. So I give this film an A-.
Oh,
this is my fourth viewing. I know you, because you said you like Separation more. You said you like Salesman more, and I like Separation more. I think as I was watching this for my fourth time, I remember thinking to myself, damn, this is the best version. I really enjoyed it more this time than I have in previous versions. And as I was watching, I'm like, is this better than Separation? I've never thought it to be. But then when I thought about the grander scale of like what's happening and just the beats and following the story, I just still think at the end of the day, Separation is a better film. But man, this is, in my opinion, neck and neck with it. This actually kind of changed a lot of my thinking on Farhadi. Like, I kind of got a little bit tired of the Farhadi machine, especially after Hero and the stories I'd heard about plagiarism. And I was like, I did not like Everybody Knows, his Spanish film with Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem. And I just feel like he's sort of hit a lull recently. So I started thinking of Farhadi as like Iran's like Steven Spielberg, in that like he's become the most popular name in cinema.
That's a wild comparison.
In terms of popularity, not filmmaking. You know what I mean? Where everyone's like, I love American movies. I love Spielberg. It's like, that's like the most like
obvious
low-hanging fruit. Exactly. And that's what Farhadi's become, in my opinion, to a certain degree. Just like the most obvious name brand, popular.
Do you think Farhadi is that more than Kiarostami?
Yes, because he's more modern. He's won more Oscars, and he won them back to back on film. So he's just become this like, Kiarostami would be like, if Farhadi's Spielberg for popularity, Kiarostami is like Orson Welles or like Hitchcock,
Yeah.
Old guard, famous, paved the way for that, for their like filmmaking. Anyways, I really like this movie more than I remember liking it. And it's neck and neck with Separation for me, but slight loss. Just I think Separation is a slightly stronger film. So I give this an A-.
Fair. I have the opposite opinion of you on all of that. I think that it's a slightly stronger film than A Separation. I think it's much more focused. I think this is a way better way to do an ambiguous ending because there is enough evidence presented in the film where I can like confidently have my own answer on things and be okay with that. Overall, I gave Separation an A-. I'm giving this one an A.
Okay.
Which means that our Cinemarex average score for A Salesman is A-, which makes it a tie between this and A Separation.
Great. As a cross-cultural adaptation of Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, Farhadi's The Salesman does not embody many immediately recognizable signs of text-to-screen adaptations, except for the play rehearsed within the film. The film presents itself as another Farhadi work rather than an adaptation. Like other Farhadi films, The Salesman narrates middle-class people's tragedies as they desperately struggle to find the truth through deceitful human interactions in unmerciful urban settings. Farhadi has not been looking back at Miller's play, written in 1940s America, in order to adapt it for Iranian cinema. He has been looking instead at his own society in a country far past its revolutionary dream era, as if planting the conceptual seeds of Miller's play on a domestic soil to collect what grows out of it without pre-expectations. If Miller's play targets the shakiness of the American dream and its shattered financial promises in its post-war and post-depression historical context, Farhadi's adaptation depicts a modern society struggling with challenges, frustrations, and political reforms almost 4 decades after a radical revolution that promised moral, spiritual, and financial improvements. Both writers use a single family's problems to focus their portrayal of decaying societies that have betrayed those ideological promises. Hats off to Farhadi for finding a new voice in the Iranian pantheon of modern filmmaking. Farhadi, thank you so much for coming on to this podcast as a great guest. Love to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Kaveh. It was great to learn about everything Cinemarex is doing.
Yeah,
it's an honor to be on this show.
Thank you so much for everything you do. You know how I feel about you.
Unfortunately.
To all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Cinemarex Podcast, and go on all those podcast things and like and follow and give us 5 stars and all that stuff.
Comments are great.
Share. Comments are wonderful.
You know what? People don't usually share. At least I haven't seen people share our podcast on their socials. Share it.
Yeah, so get mad at people individually. We're gonna start showing up at your door.
Yeah.
And to everyone else, Be'omi de Didar.
Bye. Music for Cinemarex was written and performed by Sohail Sadinejad.